But what we found is these 6 foundational steps. The first one is what we call insights. And within the insights are really based on 5 levels of insights. And we find that most companies focus on 2 or 3, and that's about it. So when we talk about insights, we mean personal insights. And so we have some really powerful tools in helping individuals understand who they are, how they operate, how they think, how they rejuvenate themselves, who they are, and giving them reflections. Oftentimes when they go through that process, they learn a lot about themselves. The second thing we do is we see how that individual interacts with their team. So there's team insights that are provided. And then the third one is organizational insight. So you have a chance to see how all that fits in. Then the fourth insight is what we call market insights. And most organizations do a great job of getting marketing data. And then the fifth insight is what we call community engagement insight. And so once you get those insights, it really helps leaders and organizations sharpen their vision in terms of where they need to go for the future, because they have an opportunity to triangulate that information, and they're doing it from a data-driven perspective, and they're doing it from a fact-based perspective, so that their vision isn't just internally and shareholder value focused, but it's also focused on the communities in which they operate in. And we've kind of moved away from that perspective. So that's module number 1. Module number 2 is what we call the trust. The trust factor is absolutely critical. So we have some of the best talent and the best practitioners as it relates to trust, and some of the best tools there. So we deal with personal trust, organizational trust, and community trust. All those need to be addressed. So we work with organizations in that capacity. Then the third one is what we call cultural candor. And this is inspired by some of the work that Kim Scott has done in her book called Radical Candor, which the key points of that approach is caring personally and challenging directly, and doing that simultaneously. We think that's a powerful concept, because when you look at leaderships, oftentimes you see one or the other. And you can see this in regional differences too. You know, you might have heard the term Minnesota Nice, where there appears to be a lot of caring from the leadership, but then when the challenge comes, there's not a lot of challenge that's being directly challenged. And so what ends up happening is people get sort of lured in to think that they're doing a really great job, but they haven't been challenged, and then when they're not performing, they get a notice and they think, my God, I thought I was doing well, and they feel surprised. So that's one level. Or you can go to the East Coast or somewhere where it's more of a direct and a more challenging approach, and people may be in your face and be a lot more aggressive about it. And you'll find that some people get very defensive. And the reason why that is because I feel that you're challenging me, but you haven't demonstrated that you care for me. So if you're going to challenge me and I don't know where you're coming from, I'm going to be a little bit guarded on that. So long story short, it's really doing those things simultaneously and doing it in a way that's not contrived. So when you say care, that means you truly do care and you understand the individual that you're working with and the people that you're working with. But you also are challenging them. And I tell many leaders the worst thing you can do is not provide what I call nutritional feedback to the people that work for you. So this should never be a surprise in terms of where an individual is performing and how well they're performing. They need to have that challenging feedback. And then number 4, and as you can see here, Jeff, what I'm sharing with you, we take an approach that unravels. So at each one of these steps, they are learning about diversity in its true human sense. Because at the end of the day, the work that we're doing isn't so much based upon whether I fit into a certain group. It's really based upon what did I contribute to the overall team, to the overall organization, and am I being recognized for those contributions in a fair and tangible way. That's what every human being desires. They want to be recognized for their contributions and knowing that they did a great job. And so in order to deal with what I call the cultural mindset, each one of these stages that I'm walking you through is like unraveling a bar of yarn to really get to the core fundamental issues. And so when we get to module 4, this is called overcoming resistance to change. And I like to call this is where we get into your ugly box, right? And we all have an ugly box, and that box inside of us where we feel shame, or we feel that we're not good enough, or we have the imposter syndrome. All of these things are playing themselves out in leadership roles and in the marketplace. And so the more you can become aware of those blind spots, then the better leader you're going to be, the better person you're going to be. And so we take individuals to that. And some of that is based on the work that Keegan and Leahy have done in Immunity to Change back in 2009. And these modules have been worked and proven in many organizations, but what hasn't been done is they haven't been brought together in a collective way to provide a collective impact for the power and the transition of the organization. So that's one of the innovations that we bring. And then finally, Module 5 is where we actually move into DEI, which is the change of the organization. And so when we talk about DEI, that does mean mergers and acquisitions. You're talking about a culture there. It does include race and gender. It does include AI. It includes whatever the challenges and the diversity issues that we're dealing with at that time. Because if you don't have those first foundational four, it doesn't matter what change you're trying to invoke in your organization, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be sustainable. And so what has happened is many organizations, they see something that happens, then they become very reactive, and they jump from stage 1, from seeing, to stage 5, and they wonder why it's not working, because the fundamentals haven't been addressed. And then Module 6 is about measuring and monitoring, and we have tools for that so that the organization can really see on their dashboard how well they're doing in these modules. And there's a continuous innovation so that the innovations that take place are continuously improving.